Welcome to the Catapult Your Business Show. Thank you for joining us. Catapult Your Business features current events occurring that are transforming our economy, new business paradigms and current trends that are transformational, innovative business strategies and concepts that catapult business, asking the experts about new approaches to create pathways for accelerating the velocity of business, and interviews of OC business leaders on their successes and failures, and how they're navigating in the global economy. And now our host, Brian Connors.
Welcome to the Catapult Your Business Show. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Connors, your host, and I'm excited to be here today to dialogue on the important issues transforming our economy, what that means for each of us, and what some businesses are doing to catapult business using the levers of today's digital economy. I'm excited to be here today because with me is Bill Cliffs, Chief Salesologist of Bill Cliffs Consulting. Thanks for being here, Bill.
Thank you, Brian.
And also J.R. Sample with Sales Baseline. Today we're going to be talking about how you can align your business better so you can compete at another level and increase your sales. So J.R., welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Well, thanks for coming. And so J.R., so tell us a little bit about, what is Sales Baseline?
Sales Baseline is a tool for organizations to use to really bring their sales organization up to a higher level. It covers over 100 different areas, any one of which is either going to help improve or have a negative impact on somebody's sales and or profitability.
Okay, and so what brought you about to try to get things started and get into this area?
Frustration with lack of sales performance.
Okay.
So as a direct salesperson, as a sales manager, as a manager of managers, and as a business owner, over the course of time, I came to understand all the different variables that are going to impact sales performance. And I spent 25 years in my own businesses and then another 10 years with Fortune 500. And it was through that whole process that I finally designed Sales Baseline to give people a very holistic, in-depth look at all the different factors that go into creating organizational sales success.
Great stuff.
Well, JR, what do you think keeps sales teams from developing the skills necessary to take them to the next level?
The leadership.
Leadership.
So it's really about leadership. And from a leadership standpoint, I think it's really being open-minded and having a set of tools that you can use. There certainly is a lot that each salesperson brings in terms of their own work ethic and their own commitment to knowledge. But many times, 80% of it is what is the leadership in the organization doing to really develop the maturity of the sales organization and improve the communication to inspire the whole sales force as a whole to hit the performance target.
Okay, so tell us a little about how this actually works. So I'm a company and I'm looking to do some kind of assessment as to how my organization is already performing and what would I actually do and how does this actually work?
Well, the first piece is really the key of what you said. This is not an assessment of how good a salesperson Bill, Brian, or JR might be. This is an assessment of how good an organization do we have to utilize our skill sets. And so we're looking at the effectiveness of marketing. We're looking at the effectiveness of their sales process, of prospecting and qualification, of their compensation systems, of the sales tools that they bring to the table for the salespeople to use. So what I found in my own life was I'm not a natural born salesperson, if you will. I studied it. And I applied it, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I got a lot of things right over time. And I believe what Sales Baseline brings is that ability for a sales manager, vice president of sales, CEO, CFO, to have a way of really objectively seeing where they stand with their sales organization, and then as they improve that organization, the people as a whole can improve their individual sales results.
Makes total sense.
So, what we do is we take these different areas I mentioned and we drill into those with specific statements that we believe to be best-in-class statements. And as the respondents agree or disagree to those, we then begin collecting that data in a way that we can see what each person is thinking of the organization. And then we roll that up into some analytics that lets leadership really understand where the greatest opportunity for success in improving the sales organization happens to be.
So how does sales baseline allow to keep the sales team in alignment? What do you see there?
Well, I have one of my setup questions, which I'll give to the audience, if you will, which I like to ask leaders, which is, Bill or Brian, how aligned is your team? Is your sales team, or is your team as a whole? And I'll typically get one of two replies. They'll either say, hey, I really don't know, or they'll say, oh yeah, we're completely aligned, marching in the same direction. And I say, hey, Brian, that's great to hear. I don't hear that often. Well, what's your objective data? And the room kind of goes quiet, and it comes back to, well, it's a gut feel. Because very few times do people really have any objective data as to whether they're aligned with their team. And in many cases, it makes sense because the sales team is out there every day making sales calls, and sales management leadership has certain responsibilities, and executive leadership has certain responsibilities. They may be looking out 6 to 18 months, and management's looking 30, 90 days, and salespeople are looking Monday through Friday. So it's not unusual for the organization to get misaligned. What's really critical, is that ability to see where you are in agreement and where you're not, and giving the leadership some holistic view of that they can do something with.
So what does that look like when I do this assessment and I get all this information? What kind of information do you provide me so that it makes sense and it's easy to understand?
It goes back to being a $1 million software investment in terms of the software that generates all the analytics, and the standard deviation, and the positive score, and the spidergrams, and the graphics. But it puts it in a package that is very simple, that's very visual, very easy to understand, and lets people. Most important is it lets the leadership. It'll let them see what the organization as a whole thinks, and then we will break that up into the groups that they decide. So, for example, we'll have that VP of sales or chief executive officer take it. We'll have your leadership take it. We'll have the frontline leadership take it. We'll have the field sales take it. And then we can show them what each individual group thinks of the sales organization. That's how we give them the objective data as to whether they're all in alignment, or somebody thinks marketing is most important and somebody else thinks prospect and qualification is where the need is, and somebody else says we don't have the right systems and tools and infrastructure. So it's really giving them all a chance to participate in what they think is working and not working. And we also use a force ranking system to where, rather than, if I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is marketing? You might say 8 or 9. And if I say, well, how important is sales process? You might say 8 or 9. And as you go through these different things, everything's all of a sudden an 8 or a 9. There's no clear delineation as to where to get started. We don't allow that. You have to make a decision between what's most important, next most, and least important. And when we get the data like that, we then can tell people how they're performing, in what areas they're performing and not performing, and we'll use their own perspective in terms of what's very important, what's not so important. And if I can use my hands, we'll create a graph and actually plot out what each of their groups think is their most important items, least important, and the areas that they're performing well and not performing well. And that's where we really get to the low-hanging fruit, or I should say they get to the low-hanging fruit. And it really gives them a very logical way and an objective way of where to start improving sales.
So if, I'm a medium-sized company, maybe, 15, 20 salespeople, and we do sales baseline assessment, How many times a year should we do this? Is it a one-time deal, or do we do it multiple times?
It's certainly at the client's discretion. You should do it at least once a year. The first time you go through it, it's such a new experience that you may want to do it again in 6 or 9 months. The way it's set up, though, is it identifies, or you identify, those most important things. After you've knocked off a couple of those, you could go back to the report and pick up the next most important. Or you may say, we've got new people into the organization. It would be good to take a fresh look at it. And so there's no wrong decision in that, but I will find a lot of people who have taken it for the first time will take it again 6 to 9 months later to go through it, the process one.
Yeah, so JR, so if I do this, what can I expect in terms of results? I mean, what are you finding the organizations that have used this process in terms of results, say, in 90 days, maybe first year?
There's a couple pieces to that. One is, there's some percentage of the sales force that's under 100%. That might be 5%, and it might be 25% or more. A lot of that goes into the philosophy of the organization setting sales goals. But there's some percentage. So if it's a $20 million company and they are at 80% of quota, that's a $4 million opportunity.
Sure.
Right? So if we can come in there and help them understand, why is they're at 16 million and not 20, and identify those drivers and fix them quickly, they can see. Some of that depends upon their own sales cycle and the size of their solutions and some of the rest of that. But literally, we can impact things immediately. So if I may, the reason I went back and developed Sales Baseline is because it was to give people an alternative to, hiring JRs from a consulting basis and spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars and taking 6 to 12 weeks. So this is a beautiful tool if you are a do-it-yourselfer, because you can literally, in 15 to 20 minutes, take the assessment, and I can generate results hours later. And the example I give is not theoretical, but I'll tell you right now, is if you had a sales force of 20 or of 50, and you said next Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I want everybody in the office, virtually or not, and we're going to take 30 minutes and go through the Sales Baseline, I can roll up those results and be having a conversation with the CEO at noon. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that by hiring a sales consulting company. It'll take them weeks to design the surveys. It'll take them weeks to interview people. It'll take them weeks to type up the results. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I simply wanted an alternative for people that really wanted to make a difference immediately and may not have a budget of $40,000 to $100,000.
That's pretty phenomenal.
That's incredible. What size of organization do you see best can leverage Sales Baseline?
The best organization is a bigger one because of the things I mentioned a moment ago. Is the cost and time frame to really assess a large organization of 20 or 50 or 500 salespeople is so onerous, people don't do it. But the more people, the more value you're going to get out. And another funny example I'll use in that context is, I'll ask somebody, Bill, when's the last time you went in your office, closed the door, sat down in your chair, and just, what are these people thinking, right? It happens
been there.
to us, right? We've all been there, sometimes multiple times a day. Well, the Sales Baseline is a way of getting out of them in an objective way what they think is going on in the organization. And to try and do so, I have a friend of mine who works for a very large sales consulting organization. They just went in for 2 weeks into a southern state organization. They spent 2 weeks interviewing salespeople. And in that process, they got a chance to ask about a half a dozen to a dozen questions in a course of an hour to 90-minute interview. We're asking over 100 questions in 15 minutes. So the results that we can deliver, are just very different than a long-term organizational assessment of that nature. It's an alternative. It's not just necessarily replace value in that, but it's a really nice alternative to have in your bag.
Right. So, and you're also engaging the whole organization because everybody has input, right? I mean, if I understand this right?
Correct. So those groups that I explained a moment ago, the CEOs, senior leadership, frontline leadership, those groups can be whatever you want. They can be a marketing group, inside sales, outside sales, sales support, because you're right. I mean, everybody has an opinion about sales, right? We all know that.
Right.
It's important sometimes to give people a voice to, to share with the executive leadership on what they see. Everybody has a more buy-in when they feel like they've been part of the process and they've been listened to. And, I talk sometimes about retention and so forth, and that can be a big part of it.
Right. So I understand there's been a fair number of companies that have gone through this process. How many have actually used Sales Baseline?
We launched it about 18 months ago in a controlled release. I've had probably several hundred go through it at this point.
Okay. And so can you give us just an example of one company in terms of what you've seen in terms of results? I mean, something they could share with our viewers?
Well, yeah, one in particular, we did it in, it was the end of April, 1st of May, and it was about 15, 20 people. And I think back at maybe like a 78. What was very interesting was when to assess were working, not being most important, least important. Compensation happened to one of the things that we looked at the holistic group was okay. It was deemed to be working and okay. There were other things that were more important for them to focus on. But because we have that ability to break the group down, we were able to look at what the CEO thinks. And the CEO said compensation is really working, and it's not important today because we redid the comp plan, in December, and everything's fine. And then we pulled out the graph of the executive team, and they said compensation also was okay and working. Okay, that's great. But then when we pulled out the assessment done by the salespeople, well, guess what? They said compensation is the number one issue, and it's not working. When we did the roll-up, because the executives thought it was great, and the sales reps didn't, we wound up right in the middle. If we had not had those groups set up, the leadership would never have known that there really was an issue within the sales department on compensation. Now, in that example, if they had just gone off and said, hey, look, JR, we did the assessment and everybody said you participated, everybody said it's okay, they would have maybe had some really bad results 60, 90 days later. But because we were able to flush that out, the action items for them was to go sit down and have a conversation with the salespeople. Because while we will highlight that as an issue, they still have to dig in and really understand, it may be because the salespeople don't understand the comp plan. And I've seen some actually wicked compensation plans come out of corporate America, that would support that. It might that finance couldn't calculate it right because of that magically, mysterious comp plan. So, or it may be that the market dynamics that they expected when they created the comp plan in December had not come into fruition yet, and they have to counsel some patience on the salespeople's part. The key thing is that we were able to tell the CEO he needed to go talk to the sales staff because he had a problem, and then they could work together on addressing what that happened to be. And we saved them a lot of heartache and helped get them back on track with their sales.
So JR, if I hear you right, if I'm a new, say, vice president of sales, I come into the company, I've seen, I have a problem in sales. I'm just not achieving the numbers. And I run my sales baseline. And I have, say, 4 branches across the United States. Will this allow me to take the survey and find out which area, which branch may be having particular problems? Maybe I have 2 or 3, so I know where to spend my time best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
So in terms of the examples of the groups, that's a perfect example where you might do, East Coast, Midwest, South, West Coast.
Excellent.
I've had another organization that what they ended up doing was taking their best salespeople and putting them in group blue, and then they took their 70 to 90 percenters and put them in group red, and then they put everybody below 70% of quota in group white, white and blue.
Okay.
And they were able to see out of the sales baseline the comparison between what their top performers thought and the lower performers thought.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Right. Yeah, I see two things from this that are pretty interesting. One is identifying, first of all, what is the real problem, and the incongruity of what one group says, like you said, the people that might be actually doing the work versus the people that are managing those people in terms of what they believe the problem to really be. And what you're saying is if you can identify what it really is first and then just work on that, you should automatically see some immediate results.
Talking about the organizations, I actually had a CEO of a Chicago organization take it, just the CEO, because the CEO himself simply wanted to see what he thought of the organization. He was more of a rainmaker, wasn't so much into systems and processes, and his reply was, I was humbled by how little I knew of our sales organization.
Says a lot. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, JR, thank you very much for joining us today. We learned a lot about Sales Baseline, and it sounds like it's a great tool for helping sales companies and companies at large increase their business, and also their sales effectiveness. So thank you for joining us today. And if someone wants to learn more about Sales Baseline, what's the best way to get more information and maybe to contact you?
Salesbaseline.com.
Okay. Is there a phone number you want to provide at all?
Yes, absolutely. They can contact me at 312-217-2080. And if I can just tag on a little bit to what Bill was saying a moment ago, a new vice president of sales is a perfect candidate for the baseline, because what happens as a new vice president is I say, hey, Bill, you got a minute? Let's have coffee. I'll tell you what's going on. Right? And then the next guy comes up and says, hey, Bill, you got time for coffee? Let me tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
Then Sally comes up. And all of a sudden they're inundated with good information, but they don't really have it all packaged in a way holistically that they really know what to do, in their first 30, 90 days. So if there is a new vice president of sales out there, it's a wonderful way to, get feedback from your team, really see what's going on at a grassroots level. And so with that, I will close.
Well, thanks, JR. Thank you for joining us and coming on the show. JR Samples with Sales Baseline, and it's exciting, Bill. I found that pretty intriguing what you can really accomplish with this new tool.
It's incredible. I've trained and led a number of companies, and if organizations would like to get greater clarity into their sales and marketing organization, into the opportunities and the obstacles for faster growth, our Assemble team can provide them with expert strategic sales and marketing strategies to help them achieve growth and profits for their business exponentially. Whether they are just starting a sales team or growing their current one, there are many variables that must be considered, weighed, and prioritized, all while driving the sales machine forward aggressively. We can assist them with the Sales Baseline Assessment, which we just heard JR Samples discuss today. I'm a certified trainer for the Sales Baseline. We also offer sales training and insight into business perspectives to catapult their business into growth and profitability with world-class results. Stimulate your business today and get the defined advantage in the marketplace. They can call us at 714-202-6082 to catapult their sales, or they can visit our website at billkliss.com. That's BILLKLISS, like kiss with an L.com. Leave a message on our contact page and one of our team members will contact them.
Well, great stuff, Bill. Thank you for being here today and enjoyed the conversation we had with JR. That is all we have for you now. You've been watching the Catapult Your Business Show. Your business success is our most important priority. Tune in and watch the other Catapult Business shows at catapultbusiness.net to learn more about topics on how you can catapult your business to the next level. You can also reach us by phone 949-423-3978 or email us at catapult@consultantslink.com. This is Brian Connors, and thank you for watching.
Consultants Link provides business a link to the most necessary business resource, the knowledge pool of intellectual capital and highly specialized professional services and consulting expertise. We provide businesses outside-the-box strategies and tactics with SWAT team execution for solving business most pressing concerns and for accelerating the velocity of business results. Consultants Link's flexible workforce offers business a leaner, more flexible staffing model to help businesses meet the real-time demand for expertise, obtain faster results, and higher returns on investment at a premium value.